Hello, what is Roboexotica? You've heard it's a festival we hold since 1999, where people come and show their cocktail robots. What are those? They are robots that can either mix cocktails, serve cocktails, or participate in another one of the categories that we give out the annual Cocktail Robot Awards in, which are smoking culture, which is a broad sector, but doesn't every year have someone filling it. But we have had smoking robots, robots that light a cigarette, robots that will throw a cigarette and through optical recognition hit your mouth. Various stuff fitting in that sector. Then we give out a prize for bar conversation, which is also a broad field with different approaches to it. And the fifth category we had since the start was other achievements, which is pretty much an anything goes category where people can come with nice installations that would just fit in a bar environment, and maybe other innovative ideas that don't mount up to a cocktail robot but fit in the environment. And from year to year we've added spontaneously different categories for robots that did something we didn't think of beforehand. Well, something we gave out last year was kid friendliness, because there started coming robots that also did non-alcoholic cocktails. And for the second time this year we have a category for 3D printed stuff, because 3D printers have really taken off in the last 1-2 years, in Vienna at least. So we have had different teams printing out cups and other stuff, also for smoking culture, that can get a prize. So I don't just want to repeat myself from last year, where I already introduced Roboexotica in this venue, but rather I thought I would like to explore with you on the internet what I found exciting this year, or will find exciting coming to Roboexotica this year. And so let's start on the Roboexotica Facebook page, which is also easy to find for you all. And here we have a link to a very interesting article where I learned new facts about, let's say, ancient cocktail robots. Like when we came up with the idea for Roboexotica, most people thought it was pure science fiction or even ridiculous to think of something, or think that it could become a festival where people from all over the world would come and bring their cocktail robots. It sounded pretty futuristic 15 years ago. But actually, shortly after our first festival, we learned about a cocktail bar in London that had just opened with a robot behind the bar. And as time progressed, we learned about more and more projects in the past, as early as the 1980s, where people have come up with robots that mix cocktails. And since I've got 45 minutes to fill, there will come a point where we'll watch a couple of movies. Not right now though, because we jumped to this very interesting article where I don't know if you all can read it, but there is a mention of CompuBar 801, which was shown in 1968, and it was able to mix up to 1,000 recipes, and that's not too shabby, although imaginably in the 60s cocktail robot wouldn't have been something a tinkerer or an artist could come up with and just build it at home like most of the pieces coming to Roboexotica are. It's a project for teams like Robotour, but also for single persons who just tinker at home and come up with a new way to serve a cocktail. But somewhere here it says how large it was. I think several tons, or at least a ton of weight. So I will have a video of, okay, let's play a little into that video because it's also funny. It's not a humanoid. There's very few cocktail robots that actually are humanoid, but this from the 1980s is the classical industrial robot arm serving cocktails, and it was done by a big robotics company that also did stuff for NASA, and they did this funny video they sent to us to show 12 years ago. Okay, no sound. So you already could talk to it, like order with speech, it would talk back to you, and that's about all of it. You see it has the charm of an industrial robot, which isn't really much of a charm. So it also goes without saying that cocktail robots, how we want to see it at Roboexotica, has to offer something of a personality or some flair going with it, so that it really doesn't stand out as something alienating in a cocktail culture environment. Like in a cocktail bar, I'm not sure you really want to see a yellow industrial arm awkwardly mixing a cocktail. So much for history. More videos. History, talking of history, let's watch the 1999 video for a short glimpse, because you can see how basic machines were 15 years ago. Pretty simple appliances, partly made of wood, but with computer chips in it that would make it possible for it to mix from several ingredients, add ice, and recognize when the glass was put there, etc., etc. But the cost of those machines that were earlier participants in our festival usually didn't go above a few €100, which has changed a little. I mean, on the one hand, robotic parts have gotten cheaper and cheaper, but also the general interest has risen, so there's more hobbyists and artists that will afford robotic components and computers that are able to use modern machines. Let's skip to some cocktail making part. Like here you see the wooden robot. It has been developed for several years so that in the end it looked really nice and fit into the bar very nicely. But here we've got the raw charms of the first year. So enough for now, enough with history. Oh, how do I shut it? Back to the article, which, here it says, to the future. It has been an exciting year. Classically it has been, as we have seen, either massive projects by industrial players, really that interesting in our context, because we want to look at stuff that can really appear in everyday life, like you go into a bar and it will be there, you can even put it in your home. So this is why this year has been very interesting, because there has been not only one but two projects from the United States that have managed to collect enough money to go into serial production with their machines. And I don't know if you've heard of Kickstarter. It's an online platform where you can pledge money for projects that seek investors, crowdfunding stuff. So both of those projects have succeeded in gathering enough money to go in the next phase of their production, namely making a series and marketing them to the end consumer. And I'm happy to announce that one of those, Bartendro by Party Robotics, will be coming to Roboexotica this year. And they have different setups that they. I wish I had a responsive computer. It's a little bit slow at the time. So you at least see you can already order it or pre-order it, and you have a setup with a lot of ingredients. Let's give this slow computer a chance to come up with some specifications. Okay, here you got it. So the P15, I guess, is the big one. We have 15 ingredients and everything you need for automatic cocktail production. But you have also got smaller sets which are more affordable. I don't know. I haven't looked at the prices. Let's see. You can order a cocktail robot for the big one, not the least. Okay, whatever. Maybe we will see how much it runs you, but I guess it's affordable comparatively if you think back to 1968 or 1980, where you have robots about $100,000 and up. This, I would be surprised if it runs over $1,000. If you buy it. If you build it, it's of course cheaper. And this brings me to the next one, which is actually Monsieur, the second project that was funded on Kickstarter. And this one has some tricks up its sleeve, like it communicates with your smartphone and recognizes when you come home and offers you a drink, and it also recognizes if more people with smartphones enter, and then it offers more drinks. It also remembers your choices. It can guess your blood alcohol level and stuff like that. So they call it a social drinking experience for those smartphone features. And they've had a lot of media coverage, as has Bartender, and I think they deserved it, because that's actually what we saw coming in 1999. Like we were dreaming of the days when it would be a common thing to have a cocktail robot and be able to buy one. But I should say that, of course, this is also why Roboexotica, what Roboexotica tried to do in the last 15 years was to establish consensus that cocktail robots should be more than efficient machines. So I'm happy to say that when I met with that guy from Bartender, they were aware of that, and in their setups they also try to realize some elegance in the process. And when it's video time, I'll try to show you some really elegant machines or some unique machines that are good examples of what we think cocktail robots should be. It should have personality, as I mentioned, or some flair. So that's on the bottoms up side. We have those two very interesting examples, but also the big players don't stop making cocktail robots either. So this year Google cooperated with MIT, and they came up with a rather sophisticated device of their own, but of course it plays in the more expensive leagues, and I think we want to watch this. Whoops. Okay. So it's freaking efficient, and it also had some functionality with smartphone ordering and stuff. But it's not necessarily a robot that could be marketed to an end consumer. It's more something big to show off at fairs and stuff. Well, is Ryan here? No? Okay, there's one participant of Roboexotica that's also in Prague today, but he didn't make it here, so I'm going to talk rather vaguely about another thing that's exciting at this Roboexotica buzzword, social robotics. It's going to incorporate some biosensor techniques, so that you have social experience when you make the robot work. Like you have to interact for the robot to go into motion and prepare a cocktail. And that's just one example of how a robot can not be efficient and still be very entertaining and rewarding if you go and interact with it. Like in the first slide I showed, there was this kind of motivation for Roboexotica, which is in the old times, like in the 1990s, when interactive media art was starting to be a big thing. We looked at a lot of stuff and interacted and didn't really know if it was worth it. Like you didn't really know what reacts what, or had to imagine still what would be able if technology would be better, so that the artist can bring the point across better, or you wish that the artist had just done something completely different because you don't understand this piece of art. So we thought, how can we make it simple? How can we speak to a wider audience and have people want to interact with media art? And so that's how we got the first couple of people to make cocktail robots and build a robot sculpture that does something useful and tasty. So, video time again. And this time we're going to the year 2006, and I think we will have more than one example of what I was talking about in this video. Okay, there's a moving robot, cocktails and snacks. There was a humanoid, this is the humanoid robot mixing cocktails that is named after Čapek, the famous Prague author, Karel Čapek. This is a nice device, also it sprays liquids in a mist, which is very nice to show. And here in the background is one very inefficient robot which takes a very long time to mix your mojito, and it only mixes mojito, no other drinks, no 1,000 recipes. And I'll show you a video just about him in a minute. Here we got a flaming drink. This was a converted battle robot. You know, in America they have big robots fighting another in the arena, and this was one of those who fights with fire converted into a cocktail robot. And actually we're here back to the mojito robot. Maybe I don't need to show you an extra video if you say you can see it. No, I'll try a different video because the quality here wasn't too good. So let's see. Let's see if we can find him on the internet faster than an hard disk. Very good. this robot came in stages. In the first year it participated in 2002, there was just a slide for lines, where you could see lines coming down. But then year after year it was completed into a robot that first slowly squeezes lime juice and then adds one ingredient after the other, stomps it, and at the end you have a wonderfully tasting mojito. Okay, the slow internet. Oh, it doesn't do anything really in this video. Just see it working. Okay, I showed you YouTube. If you want to see the robot in action, look at more different videos on YouTube. I'm sure, I know there is one on it where it really works and it's nice to watch. You can also come to Roboexotica next Thursday and see it actually work and drink one of its cocktails. So we arrived at this year's Roboexotica. In my narrative, let me see if I can give you more arguments for coming this year. Like always, like for the last couple of years, we have students from Graz coming, 3 groups, which every year is interesting view on the matter, because unlike most of the other participants, they don't really know it long before Roboexotica that they will participate, but Johannes Grenzfurtner, who is one of our organizers, he teaches those students, and like in September he tells them, okay, you are going to make cocktail robots and show start of December. And then you see people who get told to build cocktail robots and what their idea of it is. And there have been very playful approaches, and this will take part of the exhibition upstairs in Ragnerhof. We will also have some regulars that have been here for a couple of years, like Melmark, which is our record-breaking machine, which can prove it, because it has a counter in it, and the numbers it is serving and producing are astonishing for reals. They have this conveyor belt and they actually make several cocktails at the same time, so yes, it is efficient, but it also looks nice. It's made of nice wood and it has some nice touches, like a tiny robot arm that will swirl your drink and put in the straw. So all in all, it has its own personality, it has a nice flair, and the cocktails are being praised as very drinkable as well. So that's regular we like to see. There's Robomochi. Another one returning this year will be Cox Bar, which is using some more advanced technical means also. Like I said, many of them will use very cheap parts, but there's also, of course, people making use of what is available today and still affordable. So machines don't have to be cheapest as possible. And like I mentioned, Ryan, who didn't make it, who will have the body sensor interactive stuff, is also a returning guest. He was here 3 years ago, also with a machine that had touch input, like it was like an organ, and you could compose your own drink by triggering the keys. Regulars, also new things like the bartender and a couple more that you will be able to see at Roboexotica or in the aftermath of Roboexotica in the undoubtedly rich documentation that will be on Flickr and YouTube and whatnot. Christian is going to be there again and hopefully we'll take some photos and video maybe. So I think it's time for final videos and or questions if there are any.
Come closer because it's a really fascinating procedure. So since robots are made to do the lights because it's a really fascinating procedure. So since robots are made to do repetitive and boring and dangerous work, this robot not only lights up the cigarette but also smokes it. So just have to wait until it moves. You need a cigarette begging robot too. That's something smokers are very good about, but I didn't know it actually.
Actually, the robot is better at bumming cigarettes than most humans are. It's very easy for it to get a cigarette from somebody.
It needs about a minute or maximum 2 minutes for a cigarette.
It's a very good smoker.
So, yeah, it's very efficient. Yeah. So now we have more free time. We don't have to lose our time with smoking cigarettes. We have our hands free. We can do. Okay, so we could have like a smoking robot and take the nicotinous pills. And that's it, or? If you like, yeah. So you have the good smell and the nicotine. Or? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, now that we've replaced all the smokers, we can burn them. Smokers? Yeah, we have a robot that replaces the smokers. Okay. I'm not commenting on that one. but I think a big hand for Adrian and his smoking robot!
So there's the smoking robot. Another interesting piece is also returning this year. It's making alcoholic pancakes. So pancakes with filling where alcohol is inside. Let's see. And the video from the first year that I showed earlier. So now it comes with music as well when it mixes. You don't see the wood anymore, although it's beneath. Okay, that was the noise in the background. Oh my god. Okay. But you get the idea. It's got this rotating part where the pancake is made and then this arm for the filling. And I don't know if we will hopefully see it soon. Then the pancake is pushed off and rolls down the slope here. That's a nice part. Okay, but basically I was providing you with the names and the internet pages where you can find all this stuff yourself and get inspiration to maybe build your own robot or just to hop in the bus. Just recommend it. Okay, thank you.